All right, y'all. Sorry for the delay. All right, I'm here. I'm here. All right, so I'm going to talk about a story that came out in the news recently. And the U.S. Postal Service is going to allow people to purchase guns and they will ship it by mail. Now, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I think that's I don't know. You know, one thing I can say, the Postal Service, they got their flaws because I had to deal with them, with my business. That's why I had to switch to UPS because they were making a lot of errors. And okay, so let's say you order a weapon by mail. Let's say you do this. What happens when it gets delivered to the wrong house or wrong apartment? And that person decides to just keep it. I just see a lot of danger in it, but that's what they're going to allow under the Trump administration. They're saying you can purchase a weapon and just have the gun shipped right to your door. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to listen to what the news and what people are saying about this. I don't know. I don't think it's a good idea at all. I can see this whole thing backfiring on the postal service and even the gun shops that are shipping these weapons out, you know? So let's get into it. All right, let's see here. Let me get rid of that. All right, y'all. Please give me a one if you can see my screen. Thank you.
They talking about they finna start letting niggas ship guns through the mail. I swear to God, they talking about USPS talking about they gonna let niggas start shipping guns. I know where I'm finna go work at, my baby. That's all I'm gonna say. You feel me? I'm about to copy a J. Don't send your, hey, don't put, hey, don't come to that one USPS on Livernois by 8 Mile. Don't go to that's the bitch I'm finna apply to. Don't go to that motherfucker because I'm for hell yeah. Alarm might tell you on the same shit. For sure. You gonna fuck around, take your pole, my baby. Don't ship your shit with my shit, bro. In my location.
And for the first time in nearly 100 years, the U.S. Postal Service is considering a rule that would allow anyone to send handguns through the mail. That's if a proposed rule under the Trump administration takes effect, which argues a 1927 law is unconstitutional. Democratic attorneys general in 24 states sent a letter this week opposing the move.
Breaking news, guys. The U.S. Postal Service just released a new rule on mailing firearms, something that we're suing over in our lawsuit, Shreve versus USPS. Here's a quick rundown. Right now, the rule proposes to allow anyone to ship a handgun or firearm inside their own state to anyone that's legally allowed to own it. Interstate, you'd be allowed to ship a handgun to either yourself or to someone who can take care of it for you until you pick it up. The rule does not allow you to ship NFA firearms or undetectable firearms. In our lawsuit, Shreve versus USPS, we're suing to allow any law-abiding citizen to ship any firearm they want to anyone, so long as it's legal.
Look, y'all, according to reports, the United States Postal Service could allow handguns to be shipped through mail if a proposed rule gets approved. Now, before people panic in the comments, there are still supposed to be rules and restrictions involved. Now, the proposal reportedly says that the firearms are supposed to be unloaded, packaged securely, and in some cases, they are supposed to be sent under specific conditions. But here's why people are debating this. Because the supporters are saying that this is a major Second Amendment victory in saying that we should have had this a long time ago. But the critics are saying this can create more opportunity for illegal trafficking and make it harder to track weapons. Honestly, these are one of those moments where you could see America splitting into two different opinions. Some people see freedom and others see danger. But one thing's for sure, if this rule actually gets approved, it'll be one of the biggest firearm mailing changes that America has seen in over a century.
Handguns could be mailed through the United States Postal Service for the first time in nearly 100 years if a proposed rule under the Trump administration takes effect. Democratic attorneys general in 24 states sent a letter this week in opposition. In 1927, Congress passed a law barring the USPS from mailing concealable firearms unless they were from licensed dealers in an effort to curb crime. In January, the Department of Justice revisited the 1927 law, calling it unconstitutional and arguing that it violated the Second Amendment and urged the Postal Service to change its regulations. The Department of Justice said that as long as Congress chooses to run a parcel service, quote, the Second Amendment precludes it from refusing to ship constitutionally protected firearms and from law-abiding citizens, even if they are not licensed manufacturers or dealers. Last month, USPS proposed a new rule that would allow anyone to mail concealable firearms like pistols and revolvers. USPS currently allows some firearms like long-barreled rifles and shotguns to be mailed, however, they must be unloaded and securely packaged. Similar protections would be in place for handguns, which have evolved since 1927. The USPS said in a statement that it is reviewing public comments, which were due Monday, before making final changes. Nevada Attorney General Aaron Ford said the rule change would undo the work states like Nevada have done to curb gun violence. Nevada experienced the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history when a gunman on October 1st, 2017, opened fire from the Mandalay Bay Casino Hotel in Las Vegas, killing 60 people. Following the shooting, Nevada passed a law requiring state-administered background checks on most private gun sales or transfers. Quote, our state has suffered enough, and to suggest we make it easier for criminals and abusers to access firearms is a slap in the face to gun violence survivors and law enforcement, Ford said in a statement. Under the proposed rules, someone could sell and ship a gun to a person within state lines. The rules are tighter for mailing guns across state lines. People could only mail it to themselves in the care of another person and would be required to open it themselves. That's designed to assist people who are traveling to another state where they might want to use a gun for recreation. The Department of Justice argues the patchwork of state laws around guns make it difficult to take them across state lines for lawful purposes like target shooting, hunting, and self-defense. It said that in many cases, people have no ability to travel with a firearm, making mail the, quote, only variable method of transportation. Ford and other attorneys general in around 24 states sent a letter Monday urging the USPS to withdraw the proposed rule, saying it will make it easier for people who can't legally possess guns, like people convicted of felonies or domestic violence, to access them. They also said it will make it more difficult to solve gun crimes. They said the executive branch does not have the authority to ignore a law Congress passed, and the rule will override state gun laws. State laws include requirements like firearm safety courses, background searches, and mental health history checks, according to the attorneys general. Those requirements are regulated through state entities, which would be bypassed if the rule change would be implemented, they argued. There will be no way to guarantee that someone is following the rules and not shipping a handgun across state lines to another person, they argued. Law enforcement will have to create a new tracking structure to account for firearms mailed through the Postal Service, which would place added burdens on state budgets, the attorneys general said. Private companies like USPS and FedEx also restrict gun shipments to customers with federal firearms licenses, such as importers, manufacturers, dealers, and collectors. FedEx requires shippers with a federal firearms license to work with a FedEx account executive to obtain approval, according to the company's website. Firearm advocacy groups applauded the proposed change, while gun safety organizations expressed their concern. John Comerford, executive director of the lobbying arm of the National Rifle Association of America, called it a key victory for law-abiding gun owners. Quote, thanks to President Trump and his administration, USPS will finally allow these firearms to be shipped under the same common-sense safety conditions as rifles and shotguns, Comerford said in a Wednesday statement. John Feinblatt, president of Everytown for Gun Safety, said the rule change will turn USPS into a, quote, gun trafficking pipeline for illegal weapons while stripping law enforcement of the tools they need to prevent and investigate gun crime.
Is proposing and backing a rule that will allow you to ship handguns in the mail.
USPS Pub 52, Section 432.2. That's what you're looking for. Also, if anybody wants to get creative, the Comstock law. And if you want to get super creative, you can talk about, I don't know, how they're already allowed to ship long ones. So there's that. So anyway, the domestic mail manual is available online, and so is Publication 52, Mailing Standards, Mailability through USPS. And it is the responsibility of the sender to know the rules of the things that they mail. It is not the responsibility of the carrier or the clerk or the mail handler. However, when those things end up missing, which sometimes happens, the United States Postal Inspection Service gets involved. You know, the same people who arrested Steve Bannon on a yacht with the Coast Guard. Also, the term going postal is a thing for a reason. You know, just saying, you should probably look it up.
So the Trump administration is attempting to let people ship handguns through USPS for the first time since 1927. Supposedly right now you can already mail rifles through USPS mail and even shotguns as long as they're unloaded and properly packaged. But handguns apparently have been banned from the mail for almost 100 years. The DOJ is now calling that the 1927 law unconstitutional, saying the Second Amendment means Postal Service can't refuse to ship legal firearms. Under the proposed rules, you can mail a handgun to someone within your state, or across state lines, it's more restricted. You could only mail it to yourself, like if you're traveling somewhere and need your gun there. The NRA loves it. Gun safety groups say it'll turn the post office into a, quote, gun trafficking pipeline. And attorneys general from about 24 states sent a letter this week saying stop, arguing it would make it way easier for felons and domestic abusers to get guns without background checks, bypassing state laws. Apparently, USPS finished taking public comments this week and is now reviewing them before making a final decision. So nothing is done yet, but apparently it's moving forward. What? To me, it's just insane. We have a lot of problems with people having guns, like school shootings and etc. So many other things that making it easier for people to actually have handguns. It's not a good thing. What do you think?
The Postal Service is considering allowing handguns to be shipped in the mail. This would mark the first time in 100 years. You see, back in 1927, Congress passed a law barring USPS from mailing concealable firearms unless they were from licensed dealers. This past January, the Department of Justice called this unconstitutional, arguing that it violates the Second Amendment. As of now, only some firearms like long-barreled rifles and shotguns can be mailed, but they must be secured and unloaded. So USPS is proposing a new rule that would allow anyone to mail concealable firearms like pistols and revolvers within state lines. There would be tighter rules in place across state lines. Democratic attorneys general in 24 states sent a letter in opposition to this, saying this would undo work to curb gun violence. A final decision has not been made yet. We'll keep you posted.
People told me to get a job with the government when I got out of prison, and it made sense. With stability, benefits, a path to retirement, and after so many years in a super structured environment, the structure of a set government job wouldn't feel that alien or nearly as alien as some of the jobs out here. I actually applied for a job at a public university for just that reason. I've seen a lot of people getting out of prison succeed in different government jobs, including as postal workers, but all that may be in danger. Because the Postal Service is now considering allowing people to ship handguns through the mail. And if you've been convicted of a felony, you are not allowed to possess a handgun, nor ammunition, nor anything of the sort. What it really comes down to is constructive possession, which is what makes it really tricky. Because constructive possession says you have both knowledge of and control over an item, it gets down to a legal argument. Because say you're in someone's car and they have a gun in the glove department and you were sitting in the passenger seat. Well, they can allege that you had knowledge of and control over because you could reach, you could control, like you could have access to it. So if a postal worker is delivering a package and it happens to have a firearm in there, well, they may have constructive possession. They can say they didn't know it was in there, but if, for example, the postal server labels it with a thing that says gun, well, all of a sudden they have control and knowledge. They're going to be convicted of possession of a firearm by someone who's been convicted of a felony, which is mandatory time.
The Trump administration is pushing the United States Postal Service, and this is per the LA Times and The Hill. They are pushing the United States Postal Service to allow handguns to be mailed. Once again, this administration is focusing on the wrong thing. So, yes, this is a law that has been in place since 1929 that you cannot mail handguns. And now the Trump administration is pushing to bring that back. How about let's refocus on mail-in ballots? How about let's refocus on healthcare? How about just refocus on the economy altogether? Like I said, something else this administration should not be focusing on. And then let me not forget, they want to bring this back because the administration is saying the 1929 law is unconstitutional. Anyway, yeah.
Okay, this is a dumb idea. Handguns could be mailed for the first time in a century under proposed rule. The Attorney General, of California. This is the dumbest idea first. Okay, the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Okay, in the very beginning, right? Did you know that, I don't know why TikTok is doing this. It's fucking annoying. Anyway, did you know that like 100 years ago, people were mailing their kids because it was cheaper than a train ticket? Yeah. I was watching Hazardous History with Henry Winkler on the History Channel, and it's like one of my favorite shows right now. But they literally did that. They were mailing their kids because it was cheaper. And you wouldn't believe it. They did that. And here's what's even crazier. They did that, and they were mailing their kids for some freaking reason. It was cheaper. And their kids would come out unscathed, and they were fine. I don't understand people who do that. It's crazy. It's 100 years ago. It was a Wild West. They had no regulations. And the people who are anti-regulation, that's what I think of Republicans. I think it's fucking crazy. Oh, by the way, my hair looks pretty good, right? I did it myself. I clipped the bangs that were in my face because I couldn't stand it anymore, and I clipped it. So, I mean, it's not the best job in the world. I'm still going to get a haircut. Don't worry on Monday. But I clipped the bangs because they were driving me crazy. And, yeah. Anyway. Yeah, this MAGA bullshit is fucking crazy.
It seems like we get stupider every single day. So here's, under the Trump administration now, a rule that they want to put into place. They want to allow the Postal Service to be able to send firearms through the mail. Handguns, weapons through the mail. We can't figure out how to get people affordable health care. We can't figure out how to take care of children and child care. We can't figure out how to make medicine cheaper. We can't even figure out how to make our gas cheaper right now. We're going to war. But we can figure out how to send guns through the mail. Can't we figure out how to keep guns from out of the hands of people that kill children in schools rather than figuring out how to send them through the mail? The Department of Justice is saying as long as Congress chooses to run a parcel service, that it cannot refuse to ship handguns, weapons to and from law-abiding citizens. We can do all that, but do we really have to?
We used to live in a time where any of these headlines could satisfy you for 6 months at a time, you know? Like, it doesn't matter what we're talking about, hantavirus or like what's going on politically. And then you find out that like USPS is considering allowing handguns to be mailed. And you're like, what? What? And it's because the DOJ is revisiting a law from 1927 saying that it could possibly violate the Second Amendment. Like, if it's not one thing that's trying to kill us all, it's another thing that's trying to kill us all. And I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm gonna go back to just doing more educational videos. I swear to God, because what is going on?
Now, once this goes into effect, because it's not into effect right now, so please don't start going out there, shipping firearms in the USPS thinking it's all good. It's, they've got to put out some sort of guidance first on how this is going to go down. Now, this technically, once it's in effect, this will not apply to every state. And, as far as I know, there are still some states out there that have state laws that prohibit the shipping of firearms, even, within USPS or the mailing service. I believe, all right, go check it out for yourself. Texas, Florida, other free states, you should be able to do this once the USPS issues their guidance. All right. Other states such as California, New Jersey, and the rest, New York, forget about it until there's some sort of lawsuit that allows this to occur, just like the other free states. What this won't also apply to is NFA items.
Can you imagine? That is going to be another issue. It's going to ultimately be a lot of people that shouldn't have weapons, and they're going to end up getting weapons because some friend or family member is going to mail it to them, give them something that they shouldn't have, where you're going to have all these unbalanced, mentally ill people with weapons. So I don't know. I don't know how they're going to regulate this whole thing, but it seems like if they're chattering about it, y'all, that means they're going to move forward with this whole thing. That's what they're going to do. So, yeah. Can you imagine? Wow. So, y'all, that's all I have on this topic. But you can just imagine how crazy this is. And like I said, I have gotten wrong things in the mail, or things that came and it was really for somebody on another street or a neighbor, and I can see them making these mistakes. It's going to be a lot of mistakes made. And like I said, and guns are going to get lost in the mail. I just see a big disaster coming, for real. But this is one more thing that's happening under Donald Trump's administration, and it's absolutely crazy. Oh, you know what? I'm working on a story tomorrow, y'all. You ain't gonna believe this. Donald Trump, he's having a bunker put in, from what I understand, like 30,000 feet, which is an absolute crazy size for a bunker. But I guess if you intend on putting your whole family down there, then yeah, you want all that space. Well, there are reports that have come out, y'all, that says Donald Trump is having a hospital built in the bunker. A hospital. I know a lot of people kept saying, why do you need $400 million to build a bunker? Well, you need it if you're going to put all these things in there that Donald Trump intends on putting in there. But he is putting a hospital inside of the bunker. So we'll talk about that more tomorrow. Unbelievable, y'all. I guess he gonna have a morgue down there too. You gonna put a morgue in there too? Oh, well, a lot of hospitals got morgues, by the way. But yeah, that is absolutely ridiculous. I guess he's gonna spend the rest of his life, whatever's left, in this bunker that he's building. So I guess it's gonna have a hospital, ambulance service. I'm sure he's going to have security down there with him because, and, friends, family, 30,000. So I guess it's going to be a hotel down there, a whole hotel with all the amenities. Unbelievable. That's where your taxpayer money is going, y'all. he's going to put a hospital in that the average person will not be able to go to, but your taxpayer dollars will pay for it. But you wouldn't be allowed to go to that hospital in the bunker. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much. What's that? Bougie, Barbie, hold on. I saw you wrote something. Lisa, did you hear the story about Trump being bored with the Iran or come on, with his dementia, he got the attention span of a gnat. So I don't know, how do you get bored with a war when so many lives are on the line? He sounds very unfit for his job. We already know he is. So, yeah, RY. Yeah, it does sound like Hotel California. Yeah, they gonna go in that bunker and never come out because he's putting everything in there. So I guess he's gonna have fine restaurants down there too. At least the McDonald's, because he loves the hell out of McDonald's. So he'll probably get a McDonald's put in down there too. Unbelievable. So y'all, I will see you tomorrow because this is going to be my last live for today. So I will see y'all tomorrow. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. I know my Shabbat will be ending soon. And wherever you are, have a wonderful night. Shalom, family.